PhD, is a freelance writer and former educator from New York City. A graduate of Rutgers University and University of Albany, she recently worked as a copy editor and contributing writer for Bronze Magazine. She is a freelance blogger for the annual Montclair Film Festival in Montclair, New Jersey, as well as blogger for personal website TMY Chronicles at WordPress.com. Prior to pursuing a career as a writer, she was a high school English language arts teacher, assistant professor, instructional coach, and an educational consultant, i.e. busy like all us women multitasking and trying to run the world. All right. Her poems have been published by Literary Mama, Memory House, and Random Sample Review. She published her first book, which is the reason why we're all here, Every Watering Word, through Wasteland Press. Inspired by her dissertation titled Literacy as Contextualized Action and Homeschooling Her 2 Sons Until School Age, she is drafting a book on literacy and homeschooling. So can we give a nice hand clap for her? You were script, sis.
I have a peaceful blessing for everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you also for your patience, and it is really, really nice to see you here. And thank you so much for coming out. I'm a little shy, but it's just nice to see all of you. Before I get started, we just wanted to also say thank you again for your contributions in terms of the door, and also we would ask you to please support us in the purchasing of our books.
Yes, book.
If you think I'm phenomenal publishing one book, wait until you hear my sister author Carla, who has published 3 books, and who is a prolific writer and teacher. All of our books are here for sale for $10 each, and we greatly appreciate your patronage. A portion of tonight's proceeds are also going to go to different charities, one being the National Alliance of Mental Illness, another one, Black Lives Matter, and the other one is Nassan's Place, a mother's initiative to support families of autistic children in the Essex County region. So we thank you so very much for your patronage. Okay. Can I get started reading Yes, so I just wanted to bring Carla up real quick. Given some of the events that have been happening recently, we wanted to have a moment of silence. So I'll bring Carla up. Okay.
So after hearing about the death of Stephen Clark earlier this week, I did want to have a moment of silence to honor his memory, the memory of his sister in Brazil that was killed, Marielle, can't remember her last name. But we did want to have a moment of silence for the victims of racial violence and all violence. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to read a series of poems, and I like to do readings where it's kind of a journey. So I'm just going to ask, if you think my poems are worthy of applause, you can hold it until the end. That was a little joke, you kind of laugh. But I try to read them kind of like as a story and to take you on a journey. So if you do deem me worthy of any applause, if you could hold it until the end of the reading, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay? Thank you. And again, just thank you everybody for coming out and supporting. There are so many callings upon your time and on a Saturday evening that you still found some time to be here with us. Again, we just wanted to say thank you. First poem I'd like to do is Raising Cain for Its Sugar. Asha walked slowly through the urban squalor, sheeted storefronts, stone stairs, faces scraped of smiles. Sweaty women and worried men all wearing raggedy skin and swallowed eyes. Flowers bayed with bruised leaves and trampled stems. On every corner of the dusty trails is a crowded ultrasound clinic. At 15, she knows a female's life is not her own, nor the one in her womb. She wonders what she brings through the clinic's doors, maternal shame or the hope of male child redemption. 1,600 rupees is all the money her 6 relatives could gather, but the risk to know, for all of their sakes, that great. Sitting down on the mat, she observes the girls and women streaming in and out, witnessing some reveal relief through small smirks and others downward eyes. She is scared. The truth and her fate unfairly wedded. In the dingy, hot waiting area, she remembers her older sister's marriage. Anjali and her groom, their wedding clothes tied, march around the sacred fire 7 times, love in chorus, destiny emanating from braided hands. Nightly, Anjali offered tears to drink with dinner. The husband's complaints droning, mocking, ringing like hourly bells. The dowry is not divine enough. His mother cannot arch her neck for lack of gold, his for lack of pride. Plagues of complaints echo from his kin, their visits, their chastisement, the threat of looming vultures. They counsel nightly. Her calls home for more payments yield little. Rice fields too few with crops, family still repaying debt from the initial dowry. On this night, Anjali stirs the stew scared because the newborn is her 3rd female. Infant hollers for food. As she turns to give it her breast, the mother-in-law's hands throw the entire can of cooking kerosene on her, emptying it. The son strikes 3 matches, 1 for each daughter, hurling one by one at her soaked sari. Engulfed and terrified, Anjali wails and flings herself. Searing flames know no mercy. As her skin pops and crackles, his kin watch, and all are gratified. With calm hand, the mother-in-law wipes the small splash of kerosene from her brow. The vultures back away from the pyre, waiting. The son flails curses at Anjali, crisping, tells her she is his burnt offering for his shame. They watch her hair sizzle like melting sugar. Her red kumkum falls from the center of her head, crumbling into char. The matrimonial offense now settled. Her wound an expired commodity, skin now scorched into parchment. Many in this burn unit live this story. To the doctors and police, their voices are broken flutes. Although their husband's betrayal seeps out in the pus, last declarations never confess that the perpetrators turned the sacrament of dowry into blood extortion. Anjali's family comes to her bedside, awaiting the full moon to subside. Anjali begs to come home, but the look of custom in her family's eyes tell her no. The mother whispers, disgrace through an umbilical cord, no mercy will ever cut. Asha staggers from the clinic, memories restless, the truth heavy in her arms. She steps into her spouse's house, and they smile with anticipatory glee. Her lips will not walk near the truth. The truth chokes in the sand. Now, I know we are people that, are very vocal, so I don't want you to sit like zombies. So feel free, if there's any reactions or responses, feel free, we home. Okay? This second piece is called Culture is Torture. Her hand she folds and holds tightly. Clenching her teeth does not console the shrinking stitches. She wishes, feeling as when making happy, playing clap-clap with Entazaki and Tashi, teeth and legs dusty from running in circles. Seeing something different than aging wall of hut. Instead, the dewy dawn, and leaning into the warming sun. But this last smell, this new smell, this final smell, is thick myrrh and dark dream. She straddles the damp corner between her knees, smelling slaughter. Her clitoris stolen, never to be grown. Her clitoris murdered when just sown. Her clitoris soon to be buried, a treasure unknown. Her clitoris, now limp and unsown, withers away in the pestle, awaiting the others.
Before we continue, I'd just like to announce that the mayor of Montclair has stopped by to see you both on your successful sign. So, Mr. Robert Jackson, just come on in and say hello. You don't have to say any words, but can you give our mayor a word? There are several events in Montclair tonight that his presence is requested at, so if he slips out, don't feel no way.
No way.
Okay, so
Good to
just
see
wanted to.
everybody.
All right.
It's an honor to see you, Mayor. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
coming
much
and
for inviting
supporting
me.
us.
This my mayor. This my neighbor.
Blessings. Thank you.
I'm crazy gone again. All right, carry on.
All right, thank you. Okay, this next poem is Menstruation is My Poetry. Menses are my prophecy, a talking galaxy, a legacy of language that spells in 5 days the incarnation of my uterus, chants homage to my hallowed region, my carnal reason that I am the gate through which God passes to replicate. My menses, my Sabbath, reminds me that for 5 days I am 5 Sundays, recording the way women can translate God's wishes into flesh. Menses is my monthly rest and test to assess my worthiness to remain the conjurer of children, the immortal portal, where spirit becomes child and child becomes possibility. My menses are my melodies, songs of ascending harmonies, brewing visions into victory. Chanting red rivers of inspiration refocus my rejuvenation for when I shall weave black nations. Each cramp is a cord of cleansing. Each pain is the pluck of my holy harp's mellowing, the gospel of cyclical hatching, not a dirge, but to drench, 'cause being a woman is a religious experience. One day, conjured to reproduce reproduction, I bring forth the gift of giving from orbit of eggs housed primordial in pyramid, summoned to rotate and spin rhythms of moons named Malcolm and Aisha. So each month I prepare as the old souls come down me, remind me that the health and heritage of my body and my people are preserved by the shedding, that these 5 days of closure and cleansing anoint me before my journey. My cycle is conversation with the universe, imagining and rehearsing made possible by inheritance of a temple of eggs buried at conception, resurrected each month to return me from woman back to the age of Genesis, to transport child into destiny and embrace. My menses announces my arrival from bud to bloom, nothingness to anew, a giving of life to giver of life. Its language narrates my legacy of dawning from girl to retiring as elder, my rites of passage, my adoption into a sacred tribe. My menses is the museum of my mind, a curator of my mission in destiny and divinity. My menstruation is my poetry, my period of honest speech where I write on cotton, the record of what has stretched and strengthened, strained and strangled me, hindered my horizon from spreading, my birthright from telling. Each falling vessel speaks with virtue of the vision that someday my rightful place under the sun will come. The capture and collection of my closure on cotton tells me so. Yet the collection has wrongfully been called vile, is assumed to be evil and unclean. Yet the period is so much more than its symptoms. It is not an it, but of her, of me, a gift. It is mine, it is mine. It is our course and not our curse. comes from the place where we are first. Songs commune in my canal. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, y'all. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Dreams of brown mothers. The dreams of brown mothers murmur and hunt for the void of dark blue, the forgotten, untrue, disbelieved pocket where their male kin and children are snatched captive, to rehearse again the breaking of bones and bloom to fit unnatural, untimely graves, earth unearthed, too early, too soon. Too many lay assembled in unholy work, becoming food for roots, hungrily groaning, growing strange fruit, branches hanging with circumcised leaves. But we mothers war, reopening wounds, opening our wounds to the dawn. Despite risk of recruitment as witness to this perverse Turner cycle again, with hands up, from churning, blistering, soaking in prayer, rebel, word by word, day by day, child by child, teen by teen, man by man. Then, swallow. For in this rebellious work, we must always look into the eyes of our male kin and new cubs, risk heartbreak and spine snap, to love the unspared. Risk. The front door will someday be answered to learn that the routine commute to work, returning home with bottle of iced tea and Skittles, enjoying cold crunch of snowballs inside sculpting young hands at playground, music played and enjoyed too loudly, Lucy sold loosely, breathing. Yielded counterfactual judgment, a forgivable offense, a mistake that has claimed again and other. This dual understanding of brown mothers amazes me, still willing to give birth, brazen in bearing children of earth, housing spirits of high, ever enduring, bearing risk, to heal, to know, to believes. Black parents. As another day climbs soilly into bed, we unfold and cuddle, cradling wonders and real wounds, unfurl pressures, praises, and prayers. Cool comfort folds finger by finger, colliding with how we parents breathe into and out of the cusp left by questions never broached in school, now asked. These two mortal immortals, black boys we sought God's permission to unfurl, are marked. Lurk deep inside circle secrets within our shoulders. Late is not our worry. Often it swings as noose we were fortuned to dodge. In belief and bond, we try to strike balance against containing and combating fear. Still we forge. Straight into deserts, dilemmas, and dirges. Actualizing sun's promise is what we solder and swear into our armor. A marching song we sing, so our worries do not secure their refuge, thread by thread in the sin of cowardice. We cannot afford that luxury. We witness the oldest spawn with questions, curiosity not yet diluted thin. The newest branches foot by foot into world equating black with sin. In their purity they pursue bliss, unfettered by bias we know as destructive and imminent. Willing, we offer them this world, hoping these lambs may not meet slaughter, forced to learn the joy of Easter too soon. grandfather, whose body is lanky and long like the Tower of Babel, yet a silent man without a throat, who is dark-skinned and gleaming teeth, who is stone-stared and stone-cold, whose hair is white new down, is too sick to ride his bike these days, who I punch lovingly saying the phrase, "Hey, Granddad," who punched me back chanting, "What you say, Tauntaun?" Who wants to sit on the porch in the sun, but who can't and gets angry and smacks us with vile words, who smoked Winston and legs crossed with wrists corded with bright gold watch, who kept a gun on him, is sickly, is sickening, who leaves for work he can't remember retiring, who defecates on the couch, who eats slow, painful, and with many needles, who is lastly laying in the old folks' home, who is lying kingly in his vault, talks to me from the blooming lily plant I took home from the funeral, calls to me from the casket cross hung on my front door, is the abandonment of treasure that assaults my heart, the battle cry Tauntaun, so that the war might stop. To become wheat again. I don't really talk much about poems, but I'll talk a little bit about this one. This one and the one I'll read after this is about my father. And he was a phenomenal man. And these two poems I'm reading are based on the experience I had where in my mid-20s I was baptized. And 9 days later after my baptism, he passed. And this was 2 weeks then before my birthday. And these poems are about him, these two. To become wheat again. He stood there on the edge looking down at daughter with tears in bowls of blue, muted trumpet, coming down train of memory with only a few miles to go to see her, a white pearl, itched from speck of uninvited sand into gem, that pearl, that precious pearl he knows he would have to give back, but broke his back. To fetch from the muck and shuck to give back on bent knee, word by word, year by year, telling her the stories, praying the tears, scribbling her little hand across sheet music he once wrote in dark rooms. Frayed shadows looming on staves, he stowed the music away to give her flowers in his smile. Today, to see her give her bones to the water, give them deep, bend them back, arch them over preacher's hands, soak the clothes, soak into the marrow her baptism. In the blooming month of May, he became clad. For a few days later, he too arched his bones over wife's unsuspecting arms. Few weeks before daughter's birthday, he gave his bones to become wheat. Leaving the rewrite of Miles Davis's Some Kind of Blue, awaiting her retrieval from the pyre. Blisters and brimstone. The Reverend is chest deep in his element. We march to the pool, one by one, wrapped in gauze, naked underneath. Water and words worsen, ancestral mouths whirling, beckoning our tattered faces close, closer, fall backwards, bruises first, him holding our noses one by one. Dunk, with shock of no sound, we want to swallow. There is no air to catch and release. The first fright forces arms to flail against the hold down. One by one, we stop, breathing, free, free falling, down from rags like autumn leaves, crisp and final collapse sends tatty clothes like homeless shopping bags, fall and rise, rise and fall, finally succumbing between kindred's loving grins. We are washing free, washing away as the pews pour praises, as we, the living, rise dead. In that brief favored water, soul shouted, clamored, claimed victory, surpassing staining. and then there, awaiting, swathing and breast milk before the tabernacle, sneaking in the swelter, brooding and breathing, walking towards the tabernacle room, walking from the tabernacle room, again and again, there again, the seedlings are singed and singing in celebration, the approaching smell of brimstone, long like cape dragging gray with red pulses, the knocking, scratching. I knew this voice long before the boulder of the tomb was rolled into place, the native tongue kebabbed with stones and bread. Old, familiar friends, seated face to face in comfortable chairs. The box opens with shiny new ring, nefarious nuptials. As we rise, the waters bloom in wide blue roses around my ankles, bubbling and boiling blisters on my feet. To run is to know again the stumble of stones, the itch of defeat. Insects nipping new skin, the picking of meat from drying chicken carcass. Scavenger, coveting, scouting, scouring, savoring that very last morsel. Last two poems. Love or butterflies. It was supposed to be a butterfly. Obeying hunger, it ate, munching on the sugar turf supplied in its container. In its biology, it knew it was supposed to eat leaves, but in its hunger, obliged the artificial crumbles. It witnessed the outside world from clear plastic cup with white perforated lid. Punctures gave it air. It was kept, studied. It already knew its curse before hatching and still tried to defy it. A thing coming into its beauty. But not everyone takes gentleness or honor to the cycle of first becoming to then become another's. Despite rapid flicks to cup, to startle, to change course, to amuse, it ate itself bigger. To cull the butterfly from its corpulence, she hung herself. Testing, spitting thread, some pieces fall off like a first thaw. Steadying again, begins again, collapsing from agitation into calm. Days later, finally cocooned. The cutting down was not gentle. Began with a simple shake of cup to startle, to disrupt, to force dismount. It was not a surgical cut with steady scalpel that warms with gentle push, slow zip downward, that brims bright blood to bloom and protect. That jealousy was brined, snaggletooth, never visiting a dentist for repair. Thrust like bread knife, zigzag, zigzag, across, down to the cutting board, up again, another slice. Looking back at that old cup, she ponders, prism, prison. But looking back is unimportant. Perhaps it was the luck of not keeping the engagement ring that kept her life from knowing a wedding band of self-turning thorns. That's my version of a love poem, y'all. Okay. We're going to end it happy now. This last one is called Invocation. Sometimes you ask me what I want from a man. How will I know? How will I love? Your questions I cannot answer because I established barriers of standards because you were unimagined, unseen, in origin, thus would be sin to assail and allay. So instead, I pray that I am open to the flow of where to go. Maybe it is towards you, me like wandering Jew, trying to locate a promised land where there is no fallow sand or Pharisee prohibiting from seeing me and you and me, God and us. I trust love is not a terminus but a destination, not a legend but sacrosanct devastation of the dark and incomplete. a restoration of the weak. To inhabit a tabernacle, delivering us from miasma into a bliss and beat. A cadence of yours and mine, a seamless chorale, a cosmic conversation of two voices assembling and ascending over and over and over again until we become kin, symbiotic as woman, as man into universe. The cluster and the source, our combination and course. If I, you, we, let third eye spawn its light to fill us with what can be on earthen and imperial canvases. You and me in this interplanetary, interstellar bliss. Returning to the original premise of what is love, it stemmed from one original promise. I risk believing you past all consciousness. I risk believing you past all consciousness. Hence, it would make no sense to box you or box this within the definition of ever-changing, ever-rearranging in the interior of my soul, therefore the exterior of my goals. In knowing you as the man in spirit that you are and the God that talks and walks through your skin. To know you as my beloved and my kin. The parts that I root, retrieve, while small in heaven, when I call you by name, and now in tongue and spirit, pronounce you as. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, my sister.
I'm going to ask your lovely musicians to play while I do a little photo out with the mayor. And then the ladies can, both of you.
Yes,
Not
yes,
me,
yes, yes.
honey.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
You get just something.
All right. Just give me the camera. Okay.
How you did? I'm good.
Thank you. Thank you.
girl today. So I don't have no stories to tell, but I'm sure by the time this evening is done, we will have some stories and we can start our conversation and our journey. All right. Carla M Cherry, what's the M for?
Michelle.
Oh, I like that. All right. Carla M Cherry is an English teacher and poet from New York City, a graduate of Spelman College, New York University, and Lehman College. She's been published in a whole lot of stuff. I don't even know how to pronounce this. Anderbo, thank you. Anderbo, For Harriet, Obscura, Descent Voice, Random Sample Review. You can't just go to Smith Review or something. What is this? Peonio Review, Bop Dead City, I can say that, Memory House Magazine, Down in the Dirt, and In Between Hangovers. She published her first book of poetry, Gnat Feathers and Butterfly Wings, through Wasteland Press in 2008. Her second book of poetry, $30 and a Bowl of Soup, was also published through Wasteland Press in 2017. Her newest publication from Wasteland Press is titled Honeysuckle Me. I love that title. Inspired by her work with her students and graduate thesis using,
Aesthetic?
Using aesthetic education to develop critical analysis and writing. Carla is writing a book about connecting visual art, thank you very much, with literacy. Her website is www.carlacherrybxpoet1.com. So you represent the Bronx. Is that what that means? All right. Represent the Bronx. Is the Bronx now Wakanda? And I didn't know. Okay. Well, can I give a warm welcome and a little hand clap for Carla?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, so the first 4 poems I'm going to do come right out of my book, Gnat Feathers and Butterfly Wings. The first poem is called Still, and it was inspired by one of my students. No. One of my girls, she's cute, even though she's dark. Fearing sepia reflections, she shuns sunlight. How many of us look at our kid and say you're pretty, even though you're light-skinned? So go tell that long-tongued liar. When women want to impress, they put on that little black dress. Fertile earth is a deep, rich brown. Nina Simone soared through stages, loving every inch of her cocoa sweet skin. In Song of Songs, Sheba is black and comely. So go tell that long-tongued liar, God's gonna cut him down. Swallow your walls, it's dark, dusky, Alec wet black beauty. For Amani and Aaliyah and Takara, our black blossoms are waiting and wanting. So go tell that long-tongued liar. Thank you. Okay, so this next poem I wrote for my niece who's here today. She came all the way down from SUNY Albany to support her auntie.
Aww.
Okay, so it's called Anyway. As she models around, kinky twist or toss, so her hair can fly. She spins to feel the wisp of cool air against her butterscotch skin. She smiles and calls herself the cutest girl in the world. Shielding my eyes from her sparkling aura, I shake my head and my index finger. Stop that, I say, thinking modesty is noble. But then again, as I look at my life, I'm glad my niece believes. Maybe she won't end up with her self-esteem all black and blue.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this next one is called The Anti-Room.
You got no poems about your son?
Oh, that's coming. Not today, but it's coming.
You doing your students, but you ain't doing me, I'm right here. I got you.
Babe, I must tell you, I can't be the type to eat a plum or a peach or an apple before it's ripe. Though you desire my dainty meats, a pure heart of motive is what I seek. Love is more than honeyed lickings, strawberry cream and apple sides. I do want you, but caress my thoughts before my thighs. Follow my aspirations, my breast will disappear. The small of my back can wait. Net my doubts and fears. Explore my world, then take me to heaven.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Preach it, girl, preach it.
Okay, so the last poem from this book is called Bits and Pieces, and it was inspired by my cousin who is a jazz musician. His name is Eric McPherson. So, woo!
Family!
Yeah, that be the drum
When I was a child, I waged bloodless wars over the radio. Strictly a fan of pop and hip-hop, I imitated what I thought was whining. Didn't know jack about scat. Dad played jazz. I wasn't digging it until I heard my cousin Eric play the drums. A diggity-diggity-that, rat-a-tat-tat. Damn, he was a cool cat. The brush of his blades were like a lover licking skin. Then he burst forth, kinetic, frenetic, foot-pounding wall of flow, a polyrhythmic staccato. My feet tapping, fingers involuntarily snapping. The Japanese man jerked his neck in fits and somehow kept time. My sister and I poked fun, you know, understood. At the student of Black history, I turned to Leroy Jones. His blues people only unravel bits and pieces of the mystery. It's hard to sum up a music to ride, from drums to knives, acapella cries, field hollers, backs bent thinking cotton, spiritual song which required. Congress wear calabashes, jumps and singing before the masters come. They jazz. Emancipation Proclamation, freedom of traveling shoes. Negro nuances, call and response. Improvised singing in the breaks, marching a funeral dirges at the 4/4 time. Grunts and moans, black men wielding hammers, slamming steel in time. As he hauled coal to New Orleans, Louis Armstrong stood outside Pete Lala's, listening as Joe Oliver blew that wah-wah with a plunger, a hat, and developed his horn. Jelly Roll Gordon's piano made the trucking go down easy, play jazz, dirty music. White show music plus black rhythm, ragtime, harmonic and melodic complexities. 1917 to turn off the red lights of Storyville. Trains, cars, feet head north to the beat of the quarter-tone pitch. Mamie Smith is right here for you. Ma Rainey's Black Bottle, putting him in a trance. Bessie Smith's Downhearted Blues, Grace Music on Record. The New Negro, Jimmy Lesford, Coleman Hawkins, Big Band Jazz. Adam Cobb Calloway's forgotten lyrics about his Minnie the Moocher, Howdy Hi, Howdy Ho. Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn take the A train to Sugar Hill. Fletcher Henderson and Don Redman swinging a Roseland. Couples doing a Lindy hop to Count Basie's jumping at the Woodside. At the Savoy, Big B carries Shorty George off the floor on her back. Not to be outdone, Fergie and Frida and the area was born. But swing with sameness and soullessness. Beboppers brought back the blues with the bass, contrast, conflict, symbolism, solo replies. Monday nights had mentions. Roy Eldridge dueling Dizzy Gillespie. Ben Webster taking on Lefty Young. A young cast with horns in hand, awaiting the beckon with a smile. I took note of my generation's call and response. Squeezed by urban living, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five created a message. Hip hopped on the knees of bebop and cool, and gave birth to gangsters, jazzmatazz. A Tribe Called Quest, low in theory, the most destiny says. One night I stole out for a walk and heard music in the call of the whippoorwill. Now when I drive, Miles, Monk, Ella, Sarah, Billy, Coltrane slacking my tight neck and lonely from bed to out the state. I tap my thumb against the wheel to keep time. Always wishing I could make that silly child I was. Apologize to Daddy and the ancestors. I rebuke her gently, because I know she didn't know. Cold, squeezed by pressure, is a diamond. Okay, so the next two poems I'm going to do come from my second book, $30 and a Bowl of Soup. And this first one is called Marks. Car, you're in this one a little bit.
Okay, all right. I was about to ask.
The Limpopo, The Zambezi, the Niger. I knew not to covet a child's soft smoothness. Okay, thank you. All right, and please give it up again for Najeli Soul.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this poem also inspired by my students, and it's called Stroking. Right? It's not that kind of stroking.
Okay. Okay.
So the last two poems are from my book, Honeysuckle Me. And the first poem from this book I'm going to read is called Prom. arms. I am a ray of sunlight, the color green, fallen lilac blossoms, tiptoes on the wing of a butterfly, the whir of a hummingbird's wings, the roots of a baobab tree, mirror image of moonlight on water, lyrics to a ballad sung in contralto, first dip in a warm bubble, a spritz of perfume, honey on lips, a chocolate covered anything, cascading drops of jojoba oil down spine, the tickle of a whisper, the bite of an earlobe, coils of kinks around fingers, the crest and crash of waves, sage words on a page. Okay, and this last poem is called Midnight Mischief.
Cover your ears. Cover your ears, mommy. Cover your ears, mommy. In my past life, I must have been one of those women who got banished from the village, burned at the stake for dancing down a primrose path. Who gets hot looking at an empty bottle of lotion? Queen Helene's. It leaves me dry, makes me long for you. Come over. Let me trace your tattoos with my tongue. Honey, suckle me. Let me fill my mouth with you. Let your fingers do that red light in the basement. Last song, slow drag down my spine, backs of thighs, knees, calves. Enter, exit at every angle as I rock your hips. Entangle your hands in my hair. Whisper, wail my name. Wake the neighbors if you want. But this time to explode, let it be all over me. Be my lotion.
Say that again.
Massage your milk over every crook and contour. You make my skin water soft. Then put your hand on top of the body of water. It bounces against your palm, glides across your fingers, like my skin.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say this. I've known these two women for over 30 years. We like grew up together in the Bronx, and we got separated for years, and then all reunited. And just to see them up there doing their thing and hearing their words and also reading them, it's amazing to me. So let's give them a round of applause. I enjoyed every minute of it.
We enjoyed you too, Thomas.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out tonight. This was really nice having a nice intimate crowd.
Yes.
And we hope that you enjoy hearing our words and that you'll be able to support us a little bit so we can make a nice donation to our charity. So thank you.
Again, thank you everybody. Please have a wonderful night. We have our books here for sale. Again, they're $10 each. We also have our bookmarks and our business cards for contact information.